ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. We're shooting live at 2 Expose You Studio. We have Mr. Garrett Goodman, he's the founder, Mr. Ray Harvey, chief engineer. I have as my special guest, Mr. Robert Hillman. He's a candidate for Charlotte City Council 6th District. How you doing there, Mr. Hillman?
I'm doing well, Paul. Glad to be on your show.
Great to have you on the show. First of all, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you. And one, I want to thank you for having me, Paul. We've known each other for a while. I've been very happy to be on your show.
Yes, sir.
For your audience, yes, my name is Robert Hillman, and I'm running for the 6th District City Council for Charlotte. I am a proud father, loving son, and brother. I'm particularly proud of my daughter, Brianna, as she is part of the COVID planning team for pre-K through 12 in the department superintendent of the superintendent of the School of Education in Washington, D.C. I'm particularly proud. She has picked up the mantle of service from her parents and grandparents. My father is a Marine. My mother is a PTA president. As a finance executive in investment banking, an investment advisor in financial markets, engineer, and public servant for nearly 30 years, I have a track record of successfully using my expertise to help our community. I believe in 3 principles for a stronger, more vibrant future for Charlotte as its next District 6 City Councilman. They come in 3s, right? Growing together, moving together, and safer together. What's growing together is about? It's about creating opportunities for economic growth and job creation through the pursuit of policies such as public-private partnerships and workforce development programs. I'm a particular, and other things like the UDL, where that will help with the planning process and streamline business setup in Charlotte. Growing together means working to increase upward mobility for all of our citizens, protecting our clean air and water, and transitioning to a clean, renewable energy. 2, moving together. That's about working with state, local, federal, and regional officials to increase the number of transportation options for Charlotte. We need more light rail. We need more walk paths. We need bikeways. We need additional light rail, and we also need commuter rail. What that will do for the area is enhance job opportunities and improve our quality of life. Lastly, I want to talk about being safer together, and that's really about improving the relationship between the community and the police. We need to love the police, and the police need to love us. And if we can do that, people will be safer in their spaces and in their daily lives. In closing, fundamentally, I believe we are stronger together than we are apart, and I want to bring that energy to Charlotte City Council District 6.
Great, Mr. Hillman. Tell the audience what made you want to run for office.
It's out of that commitment to community service, and it's also kind of somewhat selfishly. I'm an engineer by training, and I'm a banker also by training. And a lot of the things that the city does are, from the perspective of planning and or from the perspective of fundraising, are finance adjacent or civil engineering or engineering related. So there's a component of me, which is, this is going to be very interesting for me, just as a, from the fundamental things that I have done in life. But I also think, for the residents of District 6, I bring some skills and talents that allow me to be effective day one on the job.
I know a lot of people from Charlotte, they may not be familiarized with their district. So what would be considered the 6th district?
Yeah, and I'll do it a couple of ways, because you can look at it by neighborhoods, you can look at it by streets, and you can look at it by zip codes. Probably the easiest one would be zip codes, because there's only 3 of them. So that's 28210, 28211, and 28226. If we're talking about neighborhoods, We're talking about Madison Park, Starmont Forest, Beverly Woods, Lansdowne, Cotswold, Myers Park, South Park, Quail Hollow, Carmel, Park Crossing, Stonehaven, to name a few. There are some more neighborhoods, and if I've left you out, it was not by intention, but there's a lot of little subdivisions in the footprint. Streetwise, what you're looking at more or less is at the north, and it's kind of cutting out a little bit of the folks who are in Myers Park and Eastover, but Windover over to South Boulevard down to 485, and then McAlpine Creek across to Monroe, and then Monroe up again to Windover. And that's, again, broad strokes, because you know how political lines run. They kind of snake in and snake out of places, but that's pretty much the footprint. So if you know anybody that lives in that footprint, Paul, have them give me a call. I'd love to talk to them about their priorities, discuss, you know, what the energy I bring, the talents I bring, and see what I can do for them to improve their quality of life.
Okay, what as far as the economy does the 6th district bring to Charlotte, and what do you feel needs to be brought to the 6th district?
That's a great question. The 6th district has a number of large businesses, Coca-Cola Consolidated being one of them. South Park Mall is another one, where there are several businesses that are in there. And that would be one of the largest clusters of businesses in the community. There are also several small business owners distributed throughout in various either strip malls or in various shops. The things that we want to make sure happen in District 6 is that we create a business environment that is pro-growth, that allows those businesses to either set up or expand and create jobs for people to come to. We also want to make sure we create transportation systems so that people can kind of get to those jobs. And lastly, want to make sure people feel, as I say, safe, so that that they don't feel like they're at risk of losing their life or their property, more importantly. And so in terms of my background in bond issuance and in financial services, what I bring to the table is an extended experience working with large investors as well as small investors. And all of that comes down to making sure that we take the money that comes into our area, and that's either tax revenue generated by those businesses that are in the footprint of District 6, and making sure that we spend that money, or money coming from the federal government or the state government. We want to make sure those funds are spent well so that we can foster more economic activity, grow the tax base, and increase wealth. Now, we also want to make sure that we're mindful as we create wealth or grow, right? Because it's extraordinarily important as you do that you have to be mindful of upward mobility. In Charlotte, one of the unfortunate situations that we have is that while we have rampant growth throughout some parts of the city, a lot of the residents in the city aren't experiencing upward mobility that would and should come along with that. And so one portion of my goal objective is actually to connect the folks in the South Charlotte to the folks in the rest of the city, i.e. hence the idea of being stronger together, working together, moving together, growing together, and being safer together. It's all about kind of pulling people together so that we can create economic opportunities for people throughout, economic opportunities and upward mobility for people throughout the city. And by doing so, we improve the business prospects for the region and the city and the district, right? Because if we're firing on all cylinders, if we're working with all of our people, that is how you get growth. That's the best way to get growth. When you start to do things where you isolate people or you separate people, sometimes it's suboptimal in terms of economic growth and economic activity. So my goal again is to kind of pull it together, to act as a conduit between the 6th district and the rest of the city, to make sure that not only are the businesses in the 6th district strong, prosperous, unencumbered by legislation, and free to grow so that they can create jobs, but also rope in folks from around the city to participate in that.
I'll take one. Wow. Women's rights, they're necessary. We're the reason for history. We gave birth to the unit. We gave birth to these men. We deserve all the rights that we're entitled to.
Oh, I'm here because I believe in rights for all, especially rights for women, because I am a woman and I believe in equal rights. And I'm fighting for that and justice for all.
It's extraordinarily important that women understand that they have support from men as it relates to some of the issues that were brought up by Trump, and in terms of his misogynist behavior, some of the language he used that was hateful or discriminatory or derogatory towards women. As a fraternity, we have a strong domestic violence campaign or action against domestic violence. So it's extraordinarily important that not only women be active and saying no to domestic violence, it's important that men also stand up and represent to other men and role model for other men what correct behavior is. Because if that doesn't happen, and also for boys, right? Because a lot of the hatred, a lot of the misogyny comes from just being poor training, right? People being brought up with just bad attitudes about how to treat women. So it's extraordinarily important for us to support today, because women need to understand that they have our support.
General, but with the new administration, it just did something to me in my spirit, that it was so negative and it was so divisive that I had to come out and take a stand against bigotry and misogyny and all that stuff. So that's why I'm here.
Many of our rights are up for grabs, pun intended. Pun intended. No silence anymore. We are history. Our story, history.